Okay, let's start. So guys, welcome to this session today. We are doing session on the new Dynamics 365 human resources migration to Dynamics 365 finance and operations. And this session is co-presented by two user groups, ANZ D365 FinOps team, which is an Australian user group focused on Dynamics 365 professionals, and D365 UG India, which is having the same vision to create platform for people to learn, grow together. So this session is uh, hosted by these two user groups. A quick agenda for today is once I do group introduction, I will hand it over to Parag for the session, and then we can have a Q&A and we will talk about what's upcoming. A quick disclaimer that views expressed in these sessions are based on presenters' experiences and it does not represent the view of Microsoft or their employer. We are using Contoso demo database and lab environments for these sessions, and any recommendations or takeaways from these sessions should be tested and properly implemented in a sandbox or a test environment before implementing it in production environment. All these sessions are recorded and they will be available on our YouTube channel. Before I hand over, a quick glimpse at the people who are working under the hood, working hard to bring these sessions live. So here you see our group volunteers from ANZ FinOps team and D365 UG India, who are working hard in their personal time and bringing these sessions, reaching out to speakers and organizing it for the user groups. So big applause to the volunteers and thanks for all the inputs. So with that, I will hand it over to Parag. Parag, over to you. Thank you.
Um, Thanks, Rachit. Because of the bandwidth issue, I'll put my camera off for some time.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen. Look, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is Parag Chapre, and in today's session, I will talk about Dynamics 365 Human Resource Migration. Let me move to the next slide. Okay, so about me, I'm Microsoft MVP since March this year's. Currently, I'm working with DXC Technology as a senior developer. So I have more than 14 years of experience in Microsoft Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and Microsoft Azure integrations. Currently, I'm living in Canberra, Australia with my family. I'm a member of Microsoft Dynamics Community Advisory Board, Community Star, contributors, lot of things I'm doing for the community at this moment. So if you have any questions about Dynamics 365, Power Platform, or HR, you can always contact me on LinkedIn or on my email ID. So the agenda for today's session is first we will see about the introduction, what is Microsoft Dynamics HR migration. After the introduction, we will see the pre-migration and post-migration steps. What are the UI changes in FinOps for HR, integrations, reporting, question and answer. So let's talk about what is Microsoft Dynamics 365 HR migration. Last year, Microsoft announced that Dynamics 365 HR module will be merged into finance and operation. So this means if you are using applications from Dynamics HR, you need to migrate to finance and operation to use same functionality. So Microsoft already migrated standalone version from HR to finance and operation HR infrastructure, meaning that HR customer will have to migrate their HR environment back to FinOps platform before the end of this year. So what happens if customer don't migrate before the end of this year? So that means the standalone HR apps will be discontinued, and this will not be available for the customers and the partners. What does this merge practically means to you? So currently you see Dynamics 365 HR is a standalone app. So after this migration, the HR is going back to finance and operation. So you can use same functionality in FinOps from the standalone HR, but you have to enable all the features from the feature management. So there are no user changes like UI changes. There are some cosmetic changes. So in this session, like I'll show you the UI changes, the difference between the FinOps HR and standalone HR. So whatever the feature Microsoft added in the HR from last 3 years, so same feature will be available in the FinOps HR. So what is the benefit of this infrastructure merge? So as you can imagine, there are two HR capabilities available between FinOps HR and Dynamics 365 HR. So for customers, it's very difficult to maintain the two environments. The reason, one of the reason is with the HR, you can't extend the application. So that means this is actually a sealed application. So if you want to extend, you have to use Power Platform. But by merging or by this infrastructure merge, what customer can do is customer can enhance the capabilities. Customer can extend the application by writing the C++ code, or you can use Power Platform. You can do the innovations like you can also use your CI/CD principles in the FinOps, and you can bring the latest code or latest features from the Microsoft. Okay, so customers using HR module in finance and operation. So if customer only using the HR module in FinOps, so you will get all the new functionalities by regular one vision update process. And if you want to activate new features, so you have to do from the feature management. So like there are maybe I can show you from the screen. Give me a minute. See. So let's say you want to activate the human resource features. So what you can do is go to system admin, feature management. Let's wait for some time. Okay, so what you can do is you can filter here by human resource, and you can activate all those features from finance and operations. This is how we can enable the functionality for HR. Yeah, so you can enable all these features. Okay, let's move to the presentation. Okay, so what if customer only using the Dynamics 365 human resource? So if customer only using the standalone HR app, so that means they have to migrate this application back to finance and operation. And the deadline for this migration is end of this year. And there are migration tool available, so you can just do lift and ship for this migration. And the migration process is very smooth, so there are no issues. Let's move to the next slide. What if customer are using both system like finance and operation HR and Dynamics 365 HR? So then what customer can do is customer can do the migration from standalone HR application to finance and operation. So that's the first step they can do. So then they can maintain two system like the migrated system and finance and operation system. But if customer want to merge into one system, so they have to do this manually, like by using the data management framework, they can import and export the data. So this is how they can do that. And with this infrastructure merge, customer can activate all the features, they can extend the applications. And for merge, there is no time frame or there is no requirement. It's based on the customer requirement. If they want to merge into one product, yeah, they can do that. But for migration, there is a deadline end of this year. So what is customer migration and what is customer merge? So migration, when we say migration, we are referring the Microsoft taking standalone HR module and moving to finance and operation platform. So for customer, the migration process is very simple. They have to do mandatory lift and shift process through which all data, licenses and integrations move from standalone HR to finance and operations. So like whatever the integrations you have, whatever the data you have, this will move to finance and operation. Merge is nothing but first step is the migration. Once you did the migration, then you have to do the manual merge process. So if you see, migration is automated process via migration tool, but customer merge is manual process. And when you do customer migration, you have to create a new LCS project. And for this migration process, there is no licensing requirement. So whatever the current license you have in the system, you have to use the same licenses. Let's see the pre-migration steps. So before you start your migration, first you have to analyze your system. So first you have to check how many custom integrations you have in your system. What are the entities you are using? So you are using the Dataverse entities or you are using the custom entities. What are the customizations you have in the system? Like for example, you created some Power Apps or Power Automate or integration with third party. Same with the Power BI reports, because once this migration is completed, you have to change the URLs for Power BI and the integrations. Also the custom fields. So you have to check how many custom fields are in the system. But after this migration, this will move all your integrations, your entities, your customizations, even your custom field. You don't need to do anything manually. So what are the prerequisites for this migration? The first requirement is you must have admin access on LCS and Power Platform. The reason is for on the LCS, we have to create a LCS project and do migration. And same we need on the Power Platform. In Power Platform, we have to create a new environment. The second prerequisite is you have to refresh your environment from production to sandbox. This is especially for the HR. And for Power Platform, you have to copy your data from production to sandbox before you do migration. And for this copy activity, you should have a enough capacity to copy the data, the environment on the Power Platform. Okay, so I'll not show you how to create LCS project, but these are the mandatory steps. So we have to create a LCS project. And while creating the project, we have to select a custom type as a Dynamics 365 HR migration. So without this custom type, you can't do migration. So once this step is completed, you have to do the onboarding for the LCS project. Like for example, you have to provide the your project team names, fast track name. You have to select your product, like you are using the Power Platform, which application, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, licensing, your go live activity checklist. So we have to provide all those information here. So once the onboarding is completed, you can then only you can go for the migration HR. And like when you click on the migrate HR, then you can see you have to select your a new LCS project which you created for the migration project, and then you have to give the source HR environment. For example, first we will do the migration for the HR sandbox. So we have to provide the HR sandbox name here, and we have to map with new Power Platform environment. So once this is done, we have to provide the deployment setting like what we do in the VM setup. So we have to provide the environment notification, administrator name, and customer sign off. And once you click on the deploy, this will take around 3 to 4 hours for the deployment of HR migration environment. So we'll see now post migration steps. So for the post migration, like I mentioned earlier, this process will take up to 3 to 4 hours depending on your data. So you have a large volume of data, this can take more time. So now after the post migration, your environment will have a new URL. Like if I show you the URL, so if you see, this is the URL with hr.talent.dynamics.com, and after the migration, you will see the different URLs similar to this one. So you will see like sandbox.operation.com. You will not see any namespace. So this will be changed, and you have to manually change this URL for your integration and the reporting. Yeah, and manually you have to reconfigure the dual write integration. So with Dynamics HR's application, you don't have the dual write configure. So we are using the Dataverse integrations, which is in the system by default. I can show you that also. Mhm. So if you go to the HR standalone application, if I go to system admin, so you can see when this radio button is on, enable dataverse integration, it automatically syncs the data in Dynamics 365 HR. But we don't have such configuration in finance and operation. So if you want to sync this data to Dataverse, so we have to enable dual write. And we have to also repoint the report URL, and we have to link the Power Platform environment. So for this migration, there are no licensing changes. The only thing is like every license come with the production and the sandbox environment. But if you need additional licenses, then you have to contact Microsoft. So what are the UI changes? So I'll show you this in the system.
We can't hear you, Parag.
You can't hear me?
Now we can. Yeah, now we can.
No, I was not talking now.
Okay.
Okay, so now if you see the right system is finance and operation, and the left system is Dynamics 365 HR application. So if you see, we have the same feature here, home button and home button, but this feel like this namespace, people, employee self-service, person management, this all move to the HR. So if I go here, human resource, so you can see this is all moved here in the HR workspace, people, employee development, and you see here leave and absence. Leave and absence is another another part here in the Dynamics. If you see here, this is a different module. So we have two modules, human resource and leave and absence. So that's one change you can see here. And if I go to here in the personal management, so you can see couple of changes here. So at least you can see here uh, more tiles as compared to the existing application. And you can also see the analytics recruiting request. That's the new feature from Microsoft for the recruitment. And for system admin, this is the same application. There are no much changes here. If I go to system admin here, yeah, you will see there are some couple of cosmetic changes, but all the functionalities will be available there, except this Dataverse configuration. Okay, let's go to the next point. So I'll not cover this slide. I'll just remove this one. Okay, so now let's talk about the extension with the existing HR app. There are limitations with the extension points because it's a SaaS application. That means we can't extend with the plus code. We have to always use Power Platform. There are no access to the code base because of the SaaS application. Custom fields only be managed to the UI interface. That's what the drawbacks with the HR. And extend with the personalization only happens with the UI or the Power Apps. But after this migration, once it is moved to the FinOps, we can extend the code with the X++. And this is how we can do the customizations. We can also write the extensions or we can use a chain of commands. And for continuous update, we can use the CI/CD or we can use the model management concept. Integrations, like as you know, in the HR application, we have the Dataverse integration configuration in the application. That means it will sync the data to Dataverse directly. But with finance and operation HR, so we have to first configure the Power Platform, we have to configure the virtual entities, and we have to configure the dual write. So with the dual write, we can sync the data from FinOps HR to Dataverse. So we can use the entities like worker, employment, jobs, compensation, positions. And if you have the existing integrations using the HR apps, like for example, you are accessing the data for worker or leave data, you have to configure the dual write. That's one option you can do that. Otherwise, you can also use virtual entity. But with virtual entity, there are some limitations. So before you use virtual entity, you have to always check whether you have to go with dual write or virtual entities. And with FinOps HR, you will also have option for the Azure data lake. So that means you can export all your FinOps data to Azure data lakes and you can do the reporting. What are the options with reporting here? So like with FinOps HR, so we can customize the Power BI report. We can create the SSRS report. And there are a couple of options with the reporting, like electronic reporting, Microsoft Excel, data lake. But with Dynamics 365 HR, you can't customize the existing reports. If you want to customize or you want to customize, in that case, you have to create a new report. You can't customize the existing report. Yeah, SSRS report, you can create SSRS report for Dynamics HR. Only thing is you have to get the data out and you can create the report in the SQL Server. So we have couple of resources from the Microsoft. So you can use these resources for the for the HR migrations. Any questions? I think we are wrap up so early. So I think there are a couple of questions maybe from the audience.
Yes, there are few questions in the chat window, Parag. Yeah, I can read that out for you and you can add your views. And even not only Parag, anyone from the attendees who wants to add their thoughts, please open up and um, help us to answer these questions. So one question is from Ankesh. Is this standalone app uh, as talent
Talent
management?
management. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. That's a called talent management because earlier when Microsoft introduced in 2017, they call as the talent. Then they changed name to human resource, and now it is merged back to the finance and operation.
So talent and talent hub are same or different? The LinkedIn talent hub.
No, talent hub is different application.
Oh, okay. Right.
I
So
think that's
H
a part of recruitment.
cool. So talent is part of merge, but talent hub is not part of merge. If is that a correct statement? If I have to say that, Parag?
No, talent hub is the part of you can say recruitment. That's like
Okay.
another application.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thank you for that. There is one more question. Any impact on licensing cost? I think you did cover some part of licensing,
Yeah,
but
so there are no impact on the licensing cost. So if you already using the HR application, so you have to just create a new LCS project. But for the FinOps, you should have at least minimum 20 licenses. But
yeah,
I think most of the companies who are using the FinOps, they already have those license in place, so they don't need any existing or new licensing.
okay. Okay, time. There is a question on time tracking management solution. Is that available in the new app?
Time tracking, like we already have timesheet applications in FinOps, so we can still use that one. But I know 4Vision is working on the timesheet application together with Microsoft.
Yeah, I can see their solution in App Source as well. There is a timesheet for
Yeah,
Dynamics
so at this
365
moment
HR.
they are using a timesheet web app application. But as per my information, 4Vision and Microsoft has a deal, I think long back. So they're gonna introduce timesheet application within the Dynamics 365 HR or FinOps.
Uh, I do have one question. Do we
Yeah.
have a proper mobile app for this HR, like for leave submission request and the workflow updation on the app?
Okay, so I think that's what I know about Live and Absence. Recently, Microsoft introduced a Power App for Live and Absence because previously it was a Teams integrations with Live and Absence. So if
Mhm.
you have access to YAML group, Microsoft Dynamics HR, there you can find the Power App for Live and Absence. It is recently introduced by Microsoft.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Parag. So these mobile apps,
Have
do
a small
they?
question.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Venkatesh. No, that's fine. We have a lot
See,
of time to do Q&A.
okay, fine. So just actually, I remember the license guide which says that it is $180 for F&O, either finance or supply chain as a base. But since now this is a HR tool, let's say I have both the licenses, so standalone application and F&O as well. In that case, I will be considered as attached license and considered as $30, or is it $40 standalone?
I think you will have the same licensing from the HR. There will not be any change in the licensing cost as per my information, but maybe you can double check with the Microsoft support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Parag. Yeah, anyone else has any? I think there are some questions in the chat window. Let me check. Satya has a question. Can you explain licensing on the app, please? Do you see it will give competition to Workday HR soon? What are your thoughts?
I think there are a lot of competitions happening. I see in Australia, not many people are using the Microsoft HR. They are mostly using Workday application, but HR is mostly used in USA and Europe and UK. That's what my personal opinion. I see people are not using HR in Australia at least.
Actually, I worked on the first implementation of the talent globally that we have done for a client in Muscat. But at
Mhm.
that time, the system is not at all mature that we have given the recommendation that they rolled it back and they stopped selling for some time and then they came up with a new application. That time it was
Yeah,
talent, now it is renamed as HR.
because that's the reason Microsoft this infra merge with the old application. You can't extend, and that's what customer was having lot of issues.
And even at that time, there was a lot of integration inbuilt with LinkedIn, but that was more
Yeah,
focused if somebody is using LinkedIn. But there are companies which I can see like customers are more not on dependent on LinkedIn. They also have other job portals.
yeah, but now all this application replaced with iSIMS, Dynamic ATS, Sig.com, Indeed. So if you have the access to APIs, you still can use Power Platform or the Logic Apps, and you can integrate all those applications.
So in that case, customers will have to buy additional licenses for those third-party
I
platforms where they want
Yeah,
to post their jobs.
yeah,
Yes,
but
yes, definitely.
Microsoft is coming back with new. Just look at the release plan. They are introducing something new. So then those who are using ISVs, they don't need to use. So they can use the standard application from Microsoft.
For recruitment and job
Yeah, for the
postings.
recruitment.
Yeah, because that's an area which was having a lot of gaps whenever we try to implement. Um, okay, that's interesting. Let's look at other questions.
Hey,
Just a
Parag.
Yeah.
minute.
Hi.
Hi. So just a quick query here. The first method that you mentioned, the lift and shift. So
Mhm.
is it just infrastructure merge or the data is also getting moved from HR to FinOps?
See what will happen with this infrastructure merge. So whatever the data you have in the system, this will move to the FinOps. Also your integration. So let's say you develop some apps on the Power Platform. So this will also move your integration from HR to FinOps Power Platform.
Okay. So in that case, so for example, I have a query here with reference to number sequences. I use a specific number sequences for worker in HR application standalone. And then
Mhm.
in FinOps, I use a different number sequences. So in that case, which one would the system consider? Have you faced
See, in
this?
the FinOps, you are not going to move the existing FinOps. So you will have a new FinOps environment. So what will happen is you already have the FinOps environment, okay? And when you're going to do migration, so for the migration, you will create a complete environment for the FinOps HR. Then it's your choice whether you want to combine the two systems like FinOps old environment and FinOps new environment. So that's called the merge, and it's not required. So it's based on the partners or customers' choice if they want to keep two system or they want to combine into one system.
Okay. So so the customer can decide so which environment they're going to use, either
Yeah,
FinOps or HR.
yeah.
But if they finance and operations, so my query with reference to number sequences, will they get pushed to FNO or will they fail? The integration would that fail?
No, but you still have a two different environments, so that will not be any issues. But if you're trying to merge, so first you have to set the number sequence. But what about your existing data? How you will manage? You have to clean up the data, or you have to regenerate the number sequence.
Hmm. Okay.
So will
The
it be
other
considered
option
like
is the other option is you can like migrate all your data to your old FinOps environment, and after that you can create a new number sequence or number format, and you can start using. So like first you will have a manual number sequence, and then you will have a continuous number sequence, something like that you can do.
Right. Okay. And similarly, we don't have any options for financial dimensions in HR. So while in FNO, we need to define the financial dimension. So would that be a problem as well? Have you encountered that?
No, I think Microsoft, I think they already mentioned the financial dimension for HR. So I think
Mm.
you can just check the documentations they already put somewhere.
Correct. Yeah. Thanks, Parag.
Okay.
So Parag,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
somebody have muted me, I think.
Someone is playing tricks with you, Ankesh. Yes, please
So the
ask your
question is,
question.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when we migrate from the HR app to D365, if we migrate, we'll get a new environment, and we merge, we'll get the same old environment. Is it right?
So when you do the migration, you will have a new environment for FinOps, FinOps HR.
Yeah, FinOps HR. And when we do a merge, we can use the same existing finance like FNO app.
Yeah, see what you can do with the merge. So now when you migrate from HR to FinOps, you have a new environment for FinOps HR, and you
Mhm.
already have a old environment for FinOps. So what you
Yes.
can do is it's your choice. So you want to do migrate the merge for the old environment. So you can use the data management framework. You can copy all your data from the new environment to the old environment. So this is how you can do the merge.
Okay. And how about the data sizing and all? Because Microsoft is nowadays more focused on the sizing of the database. If we check with customers, few customers get redundant mails like the database size is used multiple times. So if we have two different app, does it has its own sizing? I'm to say two different application. So we have a different calculation of the sizing of the database, or it'll be recorded
I
on the
think it
single
is
tenant.
depends on the capacity of the environment. This is what I think I understand from the Power Platform. If you have more data, but if you don't have capacity, then you will have a problem. So I think you have to reach Microsoft support.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So is there any Microsoft supported pathway to do this merge of your new HR instance and your existing FNO instance? I think that's a common question, Parag, which people want to ask, because we understand once we move in FNO, like move to this ERP way of hosting our HR application, then we have two instances. One is our old FNO, one is the new FNO, but basically for HR. So how do
Yeah.
we, when we merge, is there anything from Microsoft which can help people to plan their merge process?
Yeah, I think we have some email address from the Microsoft, which I can share in the chat, and you can contact for any query about the Microsoft HR migration.
Yeah.
There are some office calls meeting from the Microsoft. So just check on the Yammer group.
Yeah, I think if you are in that landscape where you are using HR and you are merging, then check out the insider program on Yammer, apply to get enrolled on that. That way you will be able to get access to a lot of product group engineers and you can discuss your scenarios there as well. I think that's
Yes,
one good thing which I like about Microsoft. They are open to a lot of community. Yeah.
so I put the email ID in the chat. So you can, if you want any help for the HR migration, you can always contact Microsoft. I think there was one question about the leave and absence app. Let me share my screen for 1 minute, and then you can see this app. So there is a group for Dynamics 365 HR on the Yammer community. So you can see there is a new app for leave and absence. I think someone asked this question. So you have to fill this survey form and you will get access to this leave and absence app.
Thank you, Parag, for that. I'll just go through the chat window to see if there are any questions unanswered. But if anyone has question, feel free to unmute and ask the question in the meantime.
I see there is a question for data templates. Yeah, there are
Data
some
templates,
templates
yeah.
available from Microsoft for this migration. Like there are new entities available for the document management for the workers. So we can use that entities. And there are a couple of more entities available.
Thank you, Parag. Parag, I have one question. So when Microsoft gives us a new FNO environment for HR, is it a new LCS project? How does it work with your existing tenant? Because my understanding is one LCS project can only be connected to one tenant. But is it like a new LCS in the same tenant or a new tenant
Yeah,
is?
so first is we have to create a new LCS project with the custom type HR migration, and then
Okay,
automatically this will generate an environment for you in the LCS.
right. So it's a type of LCS project which we have to
Yeah.
choose. Okay,
So without that custom type, you can't do the HR migrations.
right, right. Thank
So
you for that.
one note, just a one comment which I have seen live. So once you are obviously if it is you are having HR as well as the FinOps, you will have two LCS projects within one tenant. Okay. Once you migrate, it's up to you whether which one do you choose. If you choose HR, it will go to a standalone, and if you choose the finance, it will go to finance and operation. And later on, the once the license has expired and the Microsoft is stopping this support from the HR standalone application, it will go off actually. You can even delete the project itself. Okay, thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Cool, guys. I think thanks, Parag, for that wonderful session. A lot of things to think about. So yeah, it's not a smooth walk in the garden type of thing of
Yeah.
merging your HR application back in FNO. So yeah, anyone has any other question, we can stay online for some more time. But if there are no questions, happy to close. Or any feedback? Great session, Parag.
Hello,
Thanks
hello,
for
Thank you.
Parag.
sharing your knowledge. Yeah.
Hello, Parag.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question. See,
Yeah.
when a new employee is joined the organization, that time we create his details in the HR employee master,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when he leave the organization, that time system that time we put the exit date in the application in the for that employee in the HR. So that HR that employee is linked to our user ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened in a real scenario? So HR people will tell that the miss when we come to some situation when we want to contact that some issues, and you come to know that that employee left the organization, but his user ID is still in the system active.
Mm-hmm.
So so is there any chance of like if we put exit date there in the employee form, it will also trigger in the user ID? Miss, it will stop.
I think you can do some customizations, but I did similar to this. I did
Mhm.
some integration between the Azure AD and the FinOps HR, you can say. So, like when the worker is hired, automatically it generates user ID in
Mhm.
the Microsoft Azure. And when the user leave the company, the employee leaves the company, automatically it disable the user in the Active Directory and also in the HR system.
Okay, okay. No, because we come across a few of the real time scenario challenges. So that's wanted to see is there anything.
Yeah. I think Power Automate can be used. I think Parag gave some sessions in the user groups where he showed how you can automate onboarding and offboarding of employees in Dynamics using Power Automate. So there are APIs available wherein you can mash up the Azure AD connectors and Dynamics FNO connectors using Power Automate to achieve these scenarios. But yeah, nothing out of the box, which is too robust. Like there is an Azure Active Directory integration within FNO as an out of the box feature, but that's more to control the security roles, not the actual creation of user and offboarding of users. So it has some limitations also. So yeah, check that out. There is a config key which you need to enable if you have to use that feature, but it is very limited in terms of what it offers. So yeah, if you want to automate end-to-end process, maybe Power Automate is the way to go.
But
Mm.
one thing about this integration, Microsoft is working on this integration. I think they will come back somewhere maybe this year or next year, but not sure when. But they will do the similar thing like when the creation of employee happened in the HR system, they will create a user in the Active Directory because this is maybe a requirement meant for all the companies. So when they
Yeah,
hire the
yeah,
employees
it's
in the,
mm, correct. So presently I'm working in a project where employees leaving left the company, and still we see their details in the system, and one fine day we get a mail that why it is still the employees details are in the system. So you have to block or disable those users. So those things are very common nowadays. So that's just that point wanted to check with you here in this session.
so let's think about like let's say company when fire 100 people or thousands of people, they
Yeah.
can't do everything manually. So they need some
Yeah.
automation, something like that.
Mm. No, if us a couple of or three employees also leave the organization in during the year, so that's some cases come across normally. Okay.
If you need
Thanks,
help, reach
Parag.
out to me.
Yeah.
Hey, hey
Sorry.
Parag, this is Kishore.
Yeah. Thank you, Parag.
Hey, so you said the 4Vision is working with Microsoft on time management, right? And do you know that they are going to buy the 4Vision solution and make it as part of the out of the box, or it's a extension or ISV?
See, actually, there was announcement long back about this IP merge. I can send you that announcement, but right now, what 4Vision did, they have their web app called Timesheet app, which communicates with the finance and operation. So, like whatever the data we have for the workers, managers, everything, that's in their web apps.
Okay, and the web app is already integrated with D365.
Yes.
Okay, and we have to install from App Source, or how we can get? Is it ISV?
It's ISV. If you want the timesheet app, you have to
Mhm.
contact 4Vision, and I
Okay.
think maybe just request for a demo. If
Mhm.
you need any help, I can just contact me because
Sure.
previously I worked with 4Vision. I developed couple of apps for 4Vision.
Got it. And there is a mobile app for that integration too, or it's only web app?
It's web app. You can also use in the mobile.
Mobile. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I think there is a question from Ranjan. We'll just take last couple of questions and then we can close. So is there a way to move the HR to FNO on-prem? Any thoughts
F&O
on that?
on prem. My suggestion is first you do the cloud migration and then manually you can import your database, or you can import your data via data management framework. And I think this is a good question. I can check with Microsoft.
It's interesting to see Microsoft still supports on-prem environments, and there may be valid scenarios where on-prem is a need. But yeah, it is challenging to support
Yeah, that's
so
true.
many different flavors. Cool. Good. Thanks, guys, for joining. Any other questions? But I really appreciate Parag for taking so many questions and sharing his knowledge. Yes, Shekhar. Yeah.
As per my knowledge on the talent side, there is some loopholes while in the leave accrual process. Right. So is there any improvement after merge in the F&O side? So is it working properly, the leave accrual process in the F&O side after merge, or the same?
So you meant to say inside the application you are facing the issues with the leave approval process, or you are
Leave
using the
accrual
team
process,
cell
not approval, leave accrual process.
leave accrual process? As per my information, like whatever the functionality we have in the HR, we have same available in the FinOps HR. So if you are facing some issues with the leave accruals, I suggest you log a bug with Microsoft and they can help you out.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I think we are almost on time, and yeah, had a good Q&A today. So any other questions? Otherwise, yeah, happy to close and keep following our group handles on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to the volunteers which we have showcased. If you want to speak up and give a session, reach out to us. We are happy to organize that, and give us your feedback and keep joining these sessions. It's really important, and each and every attendee boosts our morale to keep doing these things, because a lot of people who miss joining live, they miss this part, ability to do Q&A and brainstorm together. It's always easy to watch later online on YouTube, but I think taking out time, joining us live, being a part of that discussion adds a lot of value to the community. And thanks a lot to each and every attendee who is available. We really thank you for joining us today. Any other closing remarks? Else we are happy to close. Yes, Amolak. Yeah.
No, I don't have any questions. Sorry.
Okay. We saw your hands were raised. Okay. No problem. All right, then. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your rest of the day and week. Happy weekend ahead, and keep following us for the upcoming sessions.
Okay, thank you. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Parag.
Thanks.
Parag.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tarun.
Venkatesh.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.